I'm Dave Alvin, and this is Finding the Blues. One of the sad things about contemporary music is there's sort of a disconnect has happened, a disruption. You know, music was handed down, and you know, folk music was handed down, and there was a big disruption where sort of a lot of the things that had been learned by blues musicians and R&B musicians and you know, country musicians was lost. And it's just being sort of rediscovered. So I think I go see a lot of young bands, and I see that they have a lot to learn about playing live, you know, about dynamics, things like that. You know, they never got to see, you know, the James Brown and the JBs in their prime. You know, they never got to see that and see what dynamics you can do, see what dynamics mean. You know, and you know, in time, what do you tell your musicians about how to play? And I was like, I want to be like a folk blues band. You know, I want to play folk music, but I want it to be an R&B band playing folk music. You know, I want the dynamics of an R&B band and all that stuff. You know, that's, for me, that's fun. You know, there are a couple of things that were on records I produced that I did duets that I would love to have on there that maybe people didn't hear. Like I did one a couple, I think it was about 2 years ago, did a duet with Christy McWilson of 805, the old Moby Grape song that came out, I think, pretty good. And I produced a Katie Moffett record, you know, also on high tone, where we did a duet of the old folk song, The Cuckoo, and that should be on there. Blues never goes away, you know, the form. You know, when I talk about blues, I tend to want to talk about the form of, you know, whether it's, you know, 12-bar blues, 8-bar blues, 27-bar blues. The blues form never really goes away. Styles of blues go in and out of vogue. Right now, it seems to me that there is and in some ways there's a huge resurgence in blues, the form of the blues. The last two Bob Dylan records are blues records. Almost every song, or every other song on those records, are blues forms. You know, you have bands like the White Stripes, Black Keys, so you get bands like that, and they're, you know, sort of the White Stripes, Black Keys kind of approaches, say, closer to the, you know, the current vogue seems to be like the Junior Kimbrough, R.L. Burnside, you know, approach to blues, which is the, you know, the very primitive juke joint stuff. The swing thing that happened, say, in the mid-90s was basically, it had very little to do with swing music and everything to do with jump blues. Most of those songs were all in the blues form. So it comes and goes, you know, say, in one decade, you know, the Chicago blues sound is passé. The next decade it won't be, you know, so it comes and goes, but there's always somebody using the blues form, and whether it's, like I said, whether it's somebody like Bob Dylan or Lucinda Williams, or, you know, it's more like songwriters, or whether it's, you know, a band, you know, or whether it's, you know, whether it's White Stripes or Johnny Lang, you know, somebody's always doing it. No, I'm doing the Long Beach Blues Festival this year with Little Milton, who I did a duet with Little Milton a couple of years ago of a song that I wrote with Rick Estrin of the Little Charlie and the Nightcats. So I got to know Milton a little bit over the years. And Little Milton's an amazing guy that's overlooked by a lot of these sort of, you know, blues audience. And, you know, and here's a guy that made records as a backup guitar player for Willie Love in Jackson, Mississippi on the trumpet label in the early 50s when he was a teenager. Then went on to make records, you know, hardcore, hard-ass, distorted guitar blues records for the Sam Phillips, when Sam Phillips' Sun label was doing, you know, blues. Then went on the Chess and made blues and soul records, and now he's on Malaco, make Chitlin Circuit soul blues record. Little Milton, there was a documentary, you know, the Little Milton's a guy that transcends all the, he's, you know, he's sort of like Big Joe Turner, and the Big Joe Turner never had to change his style and was always contemporary and whatever went around him. Little Milton's kind of similar. You know, there's the Grand Emporium in Kansas City, you know, is a great place. You know, there's all the Chicago clubs, you know, there's a million of those. My favorite place in Chicago is a family-run joint called Fitzgerald's, and that's all where I always play. And yeah, they bring in everything from jazz to Texas singer-songwriters, you know, to me. And then, you know, the biggest difference that I found between say now and when the Blasters, when we wanted to become a band, not even when we'd come up with a name, just when we were like, let's be a band, let's put a band together, there was very little then. You know, now there's an infrastructure for roots music dash blues, you know. There's a corporate chain of nightclubs called House of Blues. They may not book the blues, but they pay lip service at least to the blues. When we first went out on the road with the Blasters, there were a few nightclubs, let's say, that booked blues, but in general, there wasn't the infrastructure that there is now. Because now you can go out and you can work. If you're a blues musician, you know, I'm not saying that it's easy, and I'm not saying that you're going to buy a mansion, but you can go out and you can work the Midwest. You know, you can work, another great bar is the Zoo Bar in Lincoln, Nebraska, great blues bar, and that's what it is. Occasionally, you know, they'll let in sort of, you know, acts like me, you know, who maybe some blues purists don't consider to be blues because I'm not imitating somebody who came before, but the Zoo Bar is a great bar. So due to the internet, due to, you know, there weren't blues radio shows when we started, you know, in the days of the Blasters. You couldn't walk into a record store and find a Barbecue Bob box set. You know, you couldn't find records by the Mississippi Sheiks. You can now. In some ways, the playing field's changed. The internet's been great for a lot of music that doesn't get regular overground airplay. Fans can access it. You know, if type in blues clubs, Google. You know, I mean, there's a great website of a guy that goes to all the juke joints in Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama, and I forget what it's called, but Google in juke, you know, blues juke joints, and the guy goes, takes pictures, says when they're open. A lot of times a blues club needs a visionary, and it needs somebody that might ruffle feathers to keep his club going. You know, Ed Pearl had the Ash Grove, and some people didn't like Ed, some people did, but it didn't matter. Ed Pearl ran the Ash Grove, and he had a vision. Clifford Antone, you know, Clifford is a great character, great guy. Some people didn't like him, some people did, and he had a vision for Antone's, and he kept it running until, you know, as long as he could. The club I was talking about in Chicago, Fitzgerald's, same thing. There's a guy that has a vision. The Zoo Bar in Lincoln, Nebraska, the owner's name right now slips my mind. Same thing. Had a vision, worked at it. You know, my only complaint about corporate nightclubs is there's no one guy with a vision. You know, there's a board of directors going, well, you know, blah 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 blah. But a blues club, a jazz club, a folk music club, you need somebody in there that's got a vision and says, I'm going to make this happen.
Did you sit? Good girl. Speak, come on. Good girl. Good girl.